Fact 1. The empire that began with a whisper of legends. In the quiet haze of ancient memory, long before marble temples gleamed under Mediterranean sunlight, the story of the Roman Empire began not with armies or emperors, but with a legend whispered across generations. It is said that the twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, abandoned as infants, were found cradled in a soft curve of the river Tiber. The water there moved slowly, almost protectively, as if even nature sensed the fate resting in those tiny hands. A she-wolf, drawn by cries instead of instinct, took them in just beneath the shade of a fig tree. Imagine the scene for a moment: the forest still, the river calm, the early morning mist hovering in the cool air. Two children sleeping against warm fur, the lone guardian keeping watch over them. Whether it happened just this way or not, the people of Rome believed it deeply, and in their belief, the legend became a foundation stone stronger than any carved from the earth. As the boys grew, so too did the dream of a city that would one day stretch beyond horizons no one had yet imagined. Their story was passed from storyteller to storyteller, flickering in the light of hearth fires, carried on the gentle breeze of ancient evenings. The Romans would build monuments, roads, laws, and an empire, but they always remembered that everything began with a moment of unexpected compassion on a quiet riverbank. The Roman Empire, one of the greatest civilizations in human history, began not with conquest, but with a myth, soft, dreamlike, and timeless. A reminder that even the mightiest stories often start in the most delicate ways. Fact 2. The gentle rise of a city built on 7 hills. As Rome grew from its mythical beginnings, the world around it seemed to unfold slowly, like dawn spreading over a quiet landscape. The early city rested upon what became known as the 7 hills, soft, rolling rises of earth that shaped the rhythm of Roman life. Each hill held its own spirit, its own quiet stories, and its own early settlements where families tended small fires and watched the evenings settle across the valleys. Imagine standing atop one of those hills in ancient times, long before marble forums or towering arches existed. Below you, thin trails of cooking smoke drifted upward, carrying the scent of warm bread and herbs through the air. Chickens clucked softly in small courtyards, and villagers' voices murmured gently as they shared the day's thoughts. The Tiber River wound slowly in the distance, catching the last golden light of the setting sun. These hills, the Palatine, the Capitoline, the Aventine, the Celian, the Esquiline, the Viminal, and the Quirinal, were not yet symbols of power. They were quiet places, dotted with cottages, surrounded by fresh breezes, and shaded by trees that swayed calmly in the Mediterranean wind. Over time, as generations passed, Rome would rise across them like a woven tapestry, each thread carefully stitched by farmers, craftsmen, merchants, and dreamers who believed their little town could become something greater. The Palatine Hill, especially, would become a cradle of history. It was here, according to legend, that Romulus founded the very heart of the city. Later, emperors would build their grand palaces on this same hill, overlooking the bustling life below. Yet in its earliest days, it was simply a peaceful rise of earth, warm under the sun, where shepherds grazed their flocks and children played in the soft dust of the hillside paths. Rome's 7 hills formed not just a geographic foundation but an emotional one, a serene beginning for a civilization that would one day echo across the world. They remind us that every great empire grows first from quiet spaces, from gentle moments, and from the steady rhythms of everyday life. Fact 3. The soft murmur of the early Roman Forum. Long before the Roman Forum became a bustling center of law, politics, and grand public life. It was simply a quiet marshland resting in the low space between the hills. In those earliest days, the ground was damp, soft beneath the feet, and reeds swayed gently in the wind like 1,000 tiny whispers. The air there had a cool stillness to it, as if the world were pausing to breathe. But over time, as Rome's early communities grew and settled on the hills around it, people began to gather naturally in this peaceful hollow. Shepherds would descend from the slopes with their flocks, and farmers would come carrying baskets of olives and grain. Traders arrived with simple goods, wool, pottery, small tools, setting them out on the dry patches of land. Voices mingled softly, blending into a low hum that drifted upward toward the surrounding hills. Eventually, the marsh was drained, and the ground became firm enough for pathways, then meeting places, and finally structures. Wooden stalls turned into stone shops. Open-air gatherings became assemblies. A small marketplace gradually transformed into the living heart of the city. Imagine walking through the Forum in those early years, before the grand temples and marble columns. The sun warms the earth beneath your sandals. The chatter around you is friendly, unhurried. Someone is selling figs under the shade of a cloth canopy. A storyteller sits on a crate, recounting old legends to a small circle of listeners. The aroma of freshly baked flatbread drifts through the air, mixing with the faint scent of herbs crushed underfoot. It was in this gentle, everyday environment that Rome began discovering what it meant to be a community, a place where people came not just to trade or talk, but simply to exist together. Over centuries, the Forum would grow into a symbol of power and politics, but its roots were peaceful, humble, and filled with the soft sounds of ordinary life. The Roman Forum teaches us that even the greatest centers of civilization begin as a quiet gathering place, a space where human voices first rise together in harmony. Fact 4. The peaceful rhythm of Roman roads taking shape. Long before Roman roads stretched across continents like threads of order and connection, they began as simple, worn footpaths created by everyday footsteps. Travelers, shepherds, and merchants walked the same routes again and again, gently pressing the earth beneath them until soft trails emerged between villages, farms, and the early settlements on Rome's hills. These paths weren't engineered yet. They were natural, shaped by the slow, steady rhythm of human movement. In time, as Rome's world grew larger and its people ventured farther, the need for stronger, more reliable roads became clear. And so, with care and patience, the Romans began crafting the earliest versions of their iconic roads. Imagine the gentle sound of tools tapping stone, the steady scrape of wooden frames leveling earth, and the soft murmur of workers sharing stories as they shaped the land. Layer by layer, they placed gravel, sand, and finally large, smooth paving stones that fit together like pieces of a quiet puzzle. Early Roman roads were not yet vast highways. They were humble beginnings, short routes connecting nearby towns, farms, and outposts. But even then, they carried a sense of calm purpose. A traveler could walk along one of these paths in the cool morning air, the stones still carrying the night's chill, and feel guided, supported. The roads made the world feel a little more connected, a little less lonely. As you imagine these early roads, picture the soft clop of a horse trotting gently in the distance, or the rolling sound of a wooden cart carrying olives or pottery. The countryside around you is peaceful, dotted with vineyards, scattered homes, and the scent of rosemary carried on a slow breeze. Everything moves at a tranquil pace, unhurried, steady, and deliberate. These first Roman roads were more than stone pathways. They were lifelines, slowly weaving together the growing tapestry of the Roman world. They remind us that great networks begin with quiet steps, and even the most powerful empires rise along paths first shaped by simple human journeys. Fact 5. The gentle glow of Roman hearths and early homes. Before the Roman Empire became a vast realm of marble villas and bustling cities, everyday Romans lived in simple homes where life moved to a soft and steady rhythm. These early dwellings, called domus for the wealthier families and insulae for common folk, were warm, intimate spaces centered around the glow of a small hearth, the heart of Roman family life. Imagine stepping into one of these early Roman homes at dusk. The sun has dipped behind the hills, leaving the sky painted in soft gold and rose. Inside, the faint crackle of a fire welcomes you, its glow flickering gently against clay walls. The warmth radiates slowly, casting dancing shadows that make the room feel alive. Families would gather close, their voices hushed, sharing stories of the day while the fire murmured steadily in the background. In the simpler homes, the scent of freshly cooked grain porridge rises from the pot, mixed with hints of herbs like thyme or bay leaf. Children curl up near the warmth, drifting peacefully into sleep as their parents finish small evening tasks. Outside the open doorway, the quiet street settles into stillness. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once and then falls silent. Wealthier homes, though larger and more decorative, still shared this same sense of calm. Courtyards open to the sky allowed moonlight to spill across small fountains or potted plants. Gentle breezes moved through the columns, carrying in the cool night air. Lamps filled with olive oil glowed softly in every room, their little flames steady and comforting. Life in these early Roman homes was unhurried. People rose with the sun, worked as the light allowed, and returned home each evening to the soothing familiarity of the hearth. It was a simple rhythm, but a grounding one, a reminder that even in an empire destined for greatness, most lives were centered around warmth, family, and the quiet comfort of coming home. The hearth was the symbol of togetherness, of daily peace, and of the small moments that truly shaped Roman life. Fact 6. The calm rituals of the Roman bathhouses. Long before the Roman baths became vast architectural wonders filled with echoing voices and marble halls, they began as simple, peaceful spaces where early Romans sought warmth, cleanliness, and a sense of gentle renewal. These early bathhouses were not grand or crowded, they were serene places where time seemed to slow, and where the worries of the day softened in the warm embrace of water and steam. Imagine stepping inside one of these early baths. The air is warm and slightly humid, carrying the faint scent of olive oil soap mixed with herbs like lavender or chamomile. Soft light filters through small openings in the roof, creating gentle patterns that shimmer across the water's surface. The quiet conversations of a few visitors echo softly, blending with the rhythmic sound of dripping water. In these early days, bathhouses consisted of just a few simple rooms, a warm room where the air wrapped around you like a gentle blanket, a hotter chamber that felt like stepping into a soft cloud of steam, and a cool pool that refreshed the senses with its crisp, calming touch. Nothing was rushed here. People moved slowly, easing themselves into each stage of the ritual, letting their bodies and minds unwind. Men and women would rub themselves with smooth oil, then gently scrape it away with curved tools called strigils, removing dust and fatigue along with it. The process was soothing, almost meditative, a moment to let the day fall away. Friends talked quietly about ordinary things, the weather, the harvest, a neighbor's new child. Others simply closed their eyes and rested, listening to the soft echoes in the room. Even in these early times, the the bathhouse was more than a place to wash. It was a sanctuary of calm, a retreat where Romans could feel the comforting weight of warm air, the cooling embrace of water, and the presence of community without hurry or strain. It was a reminder that in daily life, there is always room for pause, for breath, and for soft renewal. These gentle rituals would one day evolve into monumental structures admired across the empire, but their heart always remained the same, a quiet place to feel human, warm, relaxed, and at peace. Fact 7. The soft echo of Roman music in the evening air. In the quieter centuries of Rome's early rise, before grand arenas and triumphal parades filled the streets with overwhelming sound, music drifted gently through the city like a calming evening breeze. It was simple, intimate, and woven into daily life in a way that soothed rather than stirred. Romans played music not only for celebration, but for comfort, a soft companion to their evenings, their gatherings, and their moments of quiet reflection. As the sun slipped behind the 7 hills and the sky turned a soft violet, small clusters of people would sit outside their homes or in open courtyards, enjoying the last cool breaths of the day. The gentle plucking of a lyre, an instrument with a warm, tender tone, often floated through the air. Its notes were slow and melodic, rising and falling like calm waves. Someone might hum along softly, letting the sound blend seamlessly with the peaceful ambience of twilight. Flutes, too, played a gentle role in Roman life. Early musicians crafted them from wood or bone, their breath creating airy, delicate melodies that seemed to drift effortlessly across the quiet streets. The sound was light, barely more than a whisper, perfect for lulling listeners toward restfulness. In the countryside, shepherds played simple tunes on reed pipes as they watched their flocks, the music mingling with the rustling grass and distant bird calls. Inside homes, mothers would sing lullabies, soft, rhythmic phrases passed down through generations. These songs weren't meant to impress, they were meant to comfort. They wrapped children in a cocoon of sound, gently guiding them towards sleep. Even adults found solace in these melodies, humming them while tending evening fires or preparing the last meal of the day. Music accompanied small rituals as well, a gentle tune while pouring wine for honored guests, a low chant during religious offerings, or quiet drumming during household celebrations. None of it was loud or commanding. It was subtle, calming, and woven into the fabric of life like a soft thread. In these early centuries, Roman music created a sense of stillness, a gentle reminder that beyond the noise of the growing city, there existed a world of harmony, connection, and quiet expression. The sounds that once drifted through Rome's evenings still echo through history, inviting us to slow down and breathe. Fact 8. The quiet watch of the Roman night guard. As peaceful as Roman evenings could be, the city also rested under the gentle protection of those who watched over it, the early night guards known as the vigilas. Long before the empire became a vast, organized machine of legions and laws, these guardians moved softly through Rome's narrow streets, carrying small lanterns whose warm glow flickered like floating stars between the shadows. Imagine the city after dusk. The daytime bustle has faded away. Market stalls are empty, their woven coverings tied down for the night. The scent of cooling stone mingles with the faint aroma of lingering hearth smoke wafting through open windows. Somewhere in the distance, a dog gives a single, lazy bark, and then silence settles again like a soft blanket. The vigilas walked in pairs or small groups, their steps slow and deliberate so as not to disturb those drifting towards sleep. They carried simple wooden staffs and small buckets of water, for their duties were humble yet important, to watch for thieves, calm disputes and prevent fires, the greatest danger to a city built largely of wood and tightly packed homes. Their lanterns cast soft circles of light on the cobblestones, illuminating patches of the quiet night as they passed. Occasionally, they would pause at a crossroads, listening for anything unusual, a startled voice, the distant crackle of something burning, or the faint hint of trouble carried on the breeze. But most nights were calm. The guards often found themselves simply enjoying the serenity of Rome at rest. They exchanged quiet conversations, small jokes, or stories to keep each other company as the moon cast its gentle glow across rooftops and temples. For many Romans, the soft footfalls of the night watch brought a sense of comfort. As families drifted into sleep, they knew someone was awake, tending to the peaceful rhythm of the city, ensuring that the night remained a safe haven. The vigilas were the unsung caretakers of stillness, protectors not of glory, but of quiet. In their steady patrols, the early Roman night guards preserved the fragile calm of the city after dark, allowing Rome to dream. Fact 9. The slow, peaceful journey of Roman grain. Before Rome grew into a vast and bustling empire, its lifeblood flowed in something incredibly humble: grain. Not gold, not armies, not marble, but the simple, soothing presence of harvested wheat that sustained families day after day. Grain traveled slowly from distant fields to Roman homes, moving through the ancient world with a steady rhythm that mirrored the gentle pace of early life. Imagine the countryside outside Rome in the soft glow of morning. Fields of wheat sway in the breeze like a golden sea, the stalks brushing against one another with a sound as delicate as a whisper. Farmers, rising with the first light, move calmly through their plots, harvesting the ripened heads of grain with practiced, careful hands. The air is quiet, filled only with the distant chirping of birds and the soft rustling of leaves. Once gathered, the grain is placed into woven sacks, loaded gently onto wooden carts pulled by patient oxen. The wheels creak softly as they begin their slow journey along early Roman roads. Dust rises lightly in their wake, catching the sunlight and sparkling like tiny suspended stars. The carts move at a leisurely pace, passing vineyards, olive groves, and clusters of small cottages. At each turn of the wheel, the grain draws a little closer to the heart of Rome. When it finally reaches the city, the grain is stored in simple granaries that smell faintly of warm straw and earth. From there, families purchase modest amounts for their daily meals. In quiet Roman kitchens, women grind the grain using smooth, rounded stones. The rhythmic sound, soft, steady, almost musical, fills the room as flour forms slowly beneath their hands. With this flour, they bake rustic loaves of bread. The aroma drifts through open windows, inviting neighbors to pause in their evening routine. The bread is simple, but comforting, warm, hearty, grounding. It is the food that sustained soldiers, nourished children, and brought families together at the end of long days. Grain was more than a crop, it was a gentle, constant presence in Roman life, an unbroken cycle of planting, harvesting, sharing, and nourishing. Its journey from distant fields to quiet Roman homes is a reminder that even the grandest civilizations depend on the softest, most fundamental rhythms of nature. Fact 10. The soft dawn light over the Tiber River. Before the Roman Empire grew into a force that touched 3 continents, there was the Tiber River, calm, steady, and quietly essential. It was the gentle thread weaving through the early heart of Rome, guiding travelers, nourishing farms, and offering moments of peaceful reflection to anyone who walked along its shores. In many ways, the Tiber was Rome's first companion, watching silently as the small settlement on the hills began to awaken into something greater. Imagine the river at dawn in ancient times. The first light of morning stretches slowly across the water, turning its surface into a soft ribbon of silver and pale gold. Mist rises in delicate sheets, drifting over the gentle current and wrapping the riverbanks in a dreamy, ethereal glow. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and reeds. Everything feels hushed, as if the world is taking a deep, quiet breath. A lone fisherman rows his small wooden boat from the shadow of overhanging trees, the oars dipping into the water with soft, rhythmic splashes. Each stroke sends ripples drifting outward, spreading calmly across the surface before fading back into stillness. On the river's edge, early farmers lead their animals to drink, the soft crunch of hooves on the pebbles mixing with the low murmur of flowing water. Birds begin their morning calls, gentle, melodic, unhurried, echoing lightly between the hills. The early Romans walking along the path beside the river speak in low voices, if they speak at all. The Tiber encourages quiet. It invites contemplation. It offers the kind of calm that makes even a busy mind slow down, like silt settling gently to the riverbed. This river carried goods, travelers, and stories. It watched over the rise of markets, the growth of neighborhoods, and the building of temples. But in its earliest days, it was simply a place of peace, a refuge from the noise of daily life, a shimmering guide that flowed past Rome like a lullaby made of moving water. For countless generations, the Tiber reminded Romans that no matter how large their world became, serenity could always be found by listening to the soft voice of a river at dawn. Fact 11. The gentle craft of Roman pottery. Long before Rome's grand monuments rose skyward and its legions marched across distant landscapes, the city's earliest artistry lived quietly in the hands of humble potters. Roman pottery, simple, unadorned, and crafted with patient care, was a daily companion to families, carrying water, storing grain, holding warm meals, and filling homes with the soft presence of handmade usefulness. Each vessel began its life not in noise or haste, but in silence, shaped slowly on a spinning wheel beneath steady, thoughtful hands. Picture an early Roman pottery workshop at the edge of dawn. The first light slips through a small window, casting a gentle golden glow over shelves lined with cooling clay bowls and jugs. The air carries a faint earthy scent, the smell of wet clay, smooth and grounding. A potter sits quietly at a low wooden bench, one foot nudging the wheel into motion. The wheel begins to turn, steady and rhythmic, producing a soft whirring sound that seems to lull the whole room into calm. The potter places a fresh lump of clay onto the center of the wheel. With slow, practiced movements, their hands glide upward, coaxing the clay into shape. The vessel begins to rise, not sharply, but gently, like a breath being released. Each touch is deliberate, careful, almost tender. In these early moments, time seems to stretch. Nothing is rushed. The world outside fades away, replaced by the soothing, repeated motions of creation. Nearby, other vessels wait to dry in the cool morning air. Some are small cups for daily drinking. Others are large storage jars that will one day hold olives, wine, or grain. Their surfaces bear the traces of fingertips, slight variations that reveal the quiet human moments behind each piece. No two items are exactly the same, yet all share a sense of warmth and familiarity. Once formed, the pottery is placed into a simple kiln, a clay oven heated with wood. The fire inside crackles softly, the warmth gradually hardening the vessels into smooth, sturdy tools. When finished, they carry a soft, muted sheen, the natural beauty of earth transformed by fire and patience. For early Romans, pottery was more than a craft. It was an everyday comfort, an object they touched, held, and relied on. Each bowl and jug carried the gentle artistry of hands that worked calmly, with heart and tradition. These quiet creations served families for generations, adding a subtle, peaceful rhythm to Roman life. Roman pottery reminds us that even the simplest objects can hold stories, stories shaped slowly, lovingly, and without hurry. Fact 12. The peaceful wisdom of the Roman olive groves. Long before Rome's influence stretched across mountains and seas, its early life was nourished by something wonderfully quiet and enduring, the olive tree. These trees, with their silvery leaves and twisting branches, stood like calm guardians over the countryside, offering shade, fruit, and oil in a rhythm as steady as the passing seasons. To the Romans, olive groves were not just fields, they were living sanctuaries where nature and daily life blended into a serene, timeless harmony. Imagine walking through one of these ancient groves in the cool hours of morning. The sunlight filters gently through delicate leaves, each one shimmering pale green and silver as it sways in a soft breeze. The ground beneath your feet is warm but cushioned with fallen leaves and dry earth, giving off a faint, comforting scent. The trees stand in quiet rows, their branches curled like the hands of old friends who have been watching over the land for generations. Farmers move slowly through the grove, tending the trees with care passed down from their ancestors. There is no rush, only patience. They examine the fruit, plump and darkening with ripeness, and when the time is right, they gather olives in woven baskets. The sound is gentle, the faint rustle of leaves, the soft thump of olives dropping into baskets, the low murmur of peaceful conversation drifting through the air. Once collected, the olives are taken to small stone presses nearby. The press turns at a steady, calming pace, crushing the fruit until thick, fragrant oil begins to flow. This oil is golden, smooth, and precious, used for cooking, healing, lighting lamps, and even anointing the skin after long days of work. In many ways, olive oil was the quiet heartbeat of early Roman life. In the evenings, as the sun sinks and paints the grove in shades of warm amber, families gather outdoors with bowls of bread dipped in fresh oil. Children play in the shadows of the trees, their laughter gentle and distant. The breeze carries with it the clean, soothing scent of crushed olives and warm bark. It is a world where time feels unhurried, where the land and the people move in harmony. These olive groves stood beside Rome through war and peace, through growth and change, offering nourishment and calm to everyone who tended them. Their presence was a reminder that even in an empire built on power, true strength often comes from the softest, most enduring parts of nature. The olive tree, steady, ancient, and peaceful, was Rome's quiet companion. Fact 13. The gentle footsteps of Roman children at play. Before Rome became a world of emperors, legions, and bustling marble cities, it was first a place filled with the soft, joyful sounds of children playing in its early streets and courtyards. Their laughter, light and unburdened, echoed between simple homes and dusty pathways, adding a tender, human heartbeat to the growing settlement. Childhood in ancient Rome was simple, imaginative, and filled with moments of carefree discovery. Imagine a warm Roman afternoon, sunlight resting gently on the earth. In an open courtyard shaded by a fig tree, a small group of children sit in a circle, drawing shapes in the dust with little twigs. They talk quietly, trading stories their parents told them the night before, their voices soft enough that they blend with the wind. Occasionally, they burst into giggles, the sound bright and pure against the stillness of the afternoon. Nearby, a pair of children roll a small wooden hoop along the ground, guiding it carefully with sticks. The hoop spins smoothly across the dirt, wobbling every now and then before being nudged back on course. The game is simple, but it fills them with focus and delight. Another group plays a gentle version of knucklebones, tossing small, rounded pieces of bone into the air and trying to catch them with quiet concentration. In the countryside, Roman children follow shepherds into open fields, helping to guide sheep while inventing imaginative games among the tall grasses. They search for smooth stones, chase butterflies, or make tiny boats from bark and set them afloat in shallow streams. Their world is uncomplicated, shaped by nature, family, and the steady rhythms of the land. Inside a modest home, a mother hums softly as she watches her child stack small clay figurines on a wooden table. The figurines, animals, gods, little horses with rounded legs, were crafted by local artisans and feel cool in the child's hands. One piece falls, making a gentle clink against the table, and the child pauses before trying again, this time more carefully. At dusk, when the sky glows soft pink, families call their children inside. Tiny feet patter across stone floors, and the day ends with warm bread, soft stories, and peaceful sleep. Childhood in early Rome was not filled with luxury, but with the simple pleasures of imagination, companionship, and gentle play. These moments, the games, the laughter, the soft patter of little sandals on dust, remind us that before Rome was an empire, it was a home. And the gentle footsteps of its children were some of the first sounds to fill its growing heart. Fact 14. The quiet grace of Roman gardens. Before Rome became a place of grand architecture and monumental power, it was already a city that cherished the soft, healing presence of nature. Early Romans tended small gardens behind their homes, peaceful pockets of green where time seemed to slow and the noise of the world faded into gentle stillness. These gardens, called horti, were simple yet full of life, offering families a serene refuge from their busy days. Imagine stepping into one of these early Roman gardens at sunrise. Dew clings softly to the leaves, sparkling faintly in the first tender light of morning. The air is cool and scented with the fresh aroma of damp soil and crushed mint. A narrow path of smooth stones winds between herbs and flowering plants, each one placed with quiet care. Rosemary bushes sway lightly in the breeze, while thyme, sage, and basil release calming fragrances whenever a hand brushes against them. Small clay pots sit neatly along the walls, filled with sprigs of parsley or delicate violets. Near the center of the garden, a fig tree spreads its broad, gentle shade across the ground, its branches heavy with fruit in the warm months. Beneath it, early Romans might sit on simple wooden stools, enjoying a moment of peaceful reflection while listening to the soft buzzing of bees drifting lazily between blossoms. A tiny fountain, no more than a stone bowl fed by a slow trickle of water, offers a soothing background sound. The steady drip-drip echoes quietly, blending with the soft rustling of leaves. Birds hop along the edges of the basin, dipping their beaks into the cool water before fluttering away with delicate wings. Families tended these gardens not only for beauty, but for nourishment. The herbs flavored their meals, the vegetables filled their tables, and the flowers offered a touch of gentle color to their everyday lives. Children played among the plants, chasing one another between rows of lettuce or hiding behind shrubs of fragrant laurel. In the evenings, lanterns were hung on branches, their warm glow dancing across the leaves while families enjoyed bread, olives, and conversation in the soft night air. These early Roman gardens were sanctuaries, places where quiet ruled, where nature whispered its calm wisdom, and where the simplest moments became the most restorative. Long before Rome's grand palaces had lavish courtyards, humble families found peace in these small green worlds, nurturing the earth as it nurtured them in return. Fact 15. The gentle footsteps of Roman children at play. Before Rome became a world of emperors, legions, and bustling marble cities, it was first a place filled with the soft, joyful sounds of children playing in its early streets and courtyards. Their laughter, light and unburdened, echoed between simple homes and dusty pathways, adding a tender, human heartbeat to the growing settlement. Childhood in ancient Rome was simple, imaginative, and filled with moments of carefree discovery. Imagine a warm Roman afternoon, sunlight resting gently on the earth. In an open courtyard shaded by a fig tree, a small group of children sit in a circle, drawing shapes in the dust with little twigs. They talk quietly, trading stories their parents told them the night before, their voices soft enough that they blend with the wind. Occasionally, they burst into giggles, the sound bright and pure against the stillness of the afternoon. Nearby, a pair of children roll a small wooden hoop along the ground, guiding it carefully with sticks. The hoop spins smoothly across the dirt, wobbling every now and then before being nudged back on course. The game is simple, but it fills them with focus and delight. Another group plays a gentle version of knucklebones, tossing small, rounded pieces of bone into the air and trying to catch them with quiet concentration. In the countryside, Roman children follow shepherds into open fields, helping to guide sheep while inventing imaginative games among the tall grasses. They search for smooth stones, chase butterflies, or make tiny boats from bark and set them afloat in shallow streams. Their world is uncomplicated, shaped by nature, family, and the steady rhythms of the land. Inside a modest home, a mother hums softly as she watches her child stack small clay figurines on a wooden table. The figurines, animals, gods, little horses with rounded legs, were crafted by local artisans and feel cool in the child's hands. One piece falls, making a gentle clink against the table, and the child pauses before trying again, this time more carefully. At dusk, when the sky glows soft pink, families call their children inside. Tiny feet patter across stone floors, and the day ends with warm bread, soft stories, and peaceful sleep. Childhood in early Rome was not filled with luxury, but with the simple pleasures of imagination, companionship, and gentle play. These moments, the games, the laughter, the soft patter of little sandals on dust, remind us that before Rome was an empire, it was a home. And the gentle footsteps of its children were some of the first sounds to fill its growing heart. Fact 16. The quiet rituals of the Roman bathhouses. In the gentle hush of early evening, when the day's warmth softened into a mild golden glow, the Roman bathhouses became peaceful sanctuaries where people sought calm, connection, and a moment of stillness. These bathhouses, thermae, as the Romans called them, were not merely places to wash the body, but places to unwind the mind. Imagine stepping through their tall arched entrances, the air warm and fragrant with hints of scented oils, the kind Romans loved to massage into their skin after a long day. Visitors began their journey in the apoditorium, a quiet changing room where soft echoes bounced gently off polished stone walls. Sandals tapped lightly against the floor as people set aside their belongings and wrapped themselves in simple cloths. From there, they passed slowly into the tepidarium, a warm chamber designed to relax the muscles and prepare the body for deeper heat. Here, The air felt like a comforting embrace, neither hot nor cold, just a steady, soothing warmth that eased the mind. Many would sit in silence, letting the glow of the room settle their thoughts. Further inside awaited the caldarium, a hot, steamy chamber where mist drifted like soft clouds. The heat opened the pores, and the dimness made everything feel dreamlike. Shadows swayed gently on the walls as bathers moved slowly through the fog, speaking in quiet voices or not at all. Some would sit by the hot pools, letting the warm water cradle their tired limbs, while others stretched out on heated marble benches, feeling the tension melt from their bodies. Time moved differently here, slow, unhurried, patient. And then, for those who enjoyed it, there was the final invigorating step, the frigidarium, a cool plunge pool that awakened the senses and refreshed the spirit. The cold water offered clarity, a gentle contrast to the heat that came before it, and many believed it strengthened the body and renewed the mind. But beyond the ritual of temperature and cleansing, the bathhouses were also places of quiet companionship. People shared stories in soft tones, reflected on their day, or simply enjoyed the peaceful company of others. The soundscape was gentle, murmured conversations, faint splashes of water, and the calming echo of footsteps in large open halls. Leaving the bathhouse, one stepped back into the night with skin warm, muscles loose, and mind at ease. It was one of the simplest, oldest forms of Roman self-care, a place where life slowed down, and the world felt just a little softer. Fact 17. The whispering lamps of the Roman night. As evening settled gently over the vast expanse of the Roman Empire, a soft transformation unfolded across its cities, towns, and quiet countryside homes. When daylight faded and the last rays dipped beneath the horizon, the Romans turned to their humble yet enchanting companions of the night, their small, flickering oil lamps. These little lamps, often made from clay or bronze, were crafted in all shapes, some plain and simple, others adorned with delicate carvings of flowers, gods, or animals. When held in the hand, they felt warm and familiar, as though carrying a tiny sun cupped safely in one's palm. Families would gather in their domus, the gentle glow of the lamps painting their walls with soft, golden tones. Shadows moved slowly, like calm waves, swaying with each subtle tremor of the flame. To light a lamp was to invite warmth and serenity into the home. A thin wick, usually made from linen or papyrus, would be dipped into olive oil, the same oil used for cooking in rituals. One spark, one quiet breath of fire, and the wick would awaken. The flame danced slowly at first, then steadied into a soft, comforting glow. This warm light was never harsh. It was gentle, a perfect companion for evenings meant for rest, reflection, or hushed conversation. In wealthier homes, dozens of lamps might glimmer along decorated corridors, creating a pathway of stars within the house. In simpler households, a single lamp was enough, a modest guardian of the night. People read scrolls by this light, shared stories, or simply sat in calm companionship, letting the golden flicker soothe their thoughts after a long day of work. Outside, street lamps lit by city attendants lined the busier parts of Rome, though their glow was far dimmer than what we know today. Still, they offered a sense of safety and peace to those walking through the evening air. Travelers on the road carried lamps hung from wooden posts, watching as the light guided them gently forward, step by step. And when it was time for sleep, the flame was carefully pinched out or smothered beneath a small metal lid. The smoke rose in a thin, delicate thread, curling into the quiet. In that last moment before darkness settled completely, one could almost imagine the lamp whispering its final goodnight. It was through these small, glowing companions that the Roman night found its calm, the kind of calm that softly lulls one toward dreams. Fact 18. The gentle rhythm of Roman bread making. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world still rested beneath a soft veil of silence, the heart of many Roman neighborhoods began to stir, not with noise or hurry, but with the comforting rhythm of bread being made. Baking bread in ancient Rome was not simply a daily task, it was a quiet, essential ritual that brought warmth and nourishment to entire communities. Picture a small Roman bakery, its walls made of stone, its doorway open to the faint blue light of early morning. Inside, bakers moved slowly and steadily, their motions practiced and calm. The air was filled with the earthy scent of grain, a smell so familiar that it instantly promised comfort. Before the first rays of sunlight stretched across the rooftops, these bakers were already kneading dough with patient hands, pressing and folding with a gentle, unhurried rhythm. Roman flour often came from wheat, farina, as they called it, sometimes finely milled, other times coarse and rustic. Mixed with water and a bit of fermented starter, the dough grew soft and warm under the baker's touch. There was something deeply soothing about this process, the slow stretching, the steady pressing, the quiet hum of early morning breath shaping tomorrow's meals. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just the peaceful cadence of work done with care. The large circular loaves, known as panis quadratus, were often marked with 8 segments, allowing families to break them apart easily. Once shaped, the loaves were set aside to rise, swelling gently like calm waves. And when the moment was right, they were placed in great stone ovens heated by wood fires. The ovens exhaled waves of heat, glowing softly like the heart of a warm hearth. Inside, the bread slowly browned, its crust turning crisp while the inside remained tender and comforting. As the city awoke, the first scent to drift through the narrow streets was the warm aroma of baking bread, an invisible lullaby that wrapped around every passerby. People lined up quietly at bakery doors, carrying baskets or cloths to collect their fresh loaves. Bakers handed them over with a smile, knowing they were passing along something simple, essential, and grounding. This daily ritual connected everyone, rich and poor, young and old, through a shared moment of nourishment. The simple act of breaking bread brought families together, turning meals into gentle gatherings where conversation flowed softly and time seemed to slow. In the steady rhythm of Roman bread making, there was a calm reminder that even in a vast empire, peace could be found in small, everyday rituals, ones that warmed the hands, comforted the body, and soothed the mind. Fact 19. The peaceful evenings in the Roman courtyard garden. As the sun drifted low and the warmth of the day softened into a cooler embrace, many Romans found themselves drawn to the heart of their homes, the quiet, calming courtyard garden known as the peristylum. These gardens were more than decorative spaces, they were sanctuaries of stillness where the gentle sounds of nature replaced the noise of the bustling streets outside. Imagine stepping into such a courtyard at dusk. The moment you cross its threshold, the air changes. The walls around the garden hold the silence tenderly, creating a world that feels separate from everything else. Soft shadows stretch across the tiled floor as the evening breeze moves lightly through the leaves of small trees, often lemon, fig, or laurel, whose subtle fragrances float through the space. At the center of many courtyard gardens sat a small fountain or pool, its water whispering in the quiet. The Romans believed that the sound of flowing water brought harmony to the soul, and here it trickled softly, creating a soothing rhythm that seemed to slow the heartbeat. Ripples glimmered in the fading light, catching hints of gold from the last rays of sun. Marble statues, sometimes of gods, sometimes of peaceful animals, stood watching over the garden with serene expressions. Their surfaces felt cool to the touch, smooth from years of care. Flowering plants grew in orderly beds, roses of pale blush, fragrant herbs like lavender and rosemary, and sometimes even exotic flowers brought from distant provinces of the empire. All of them added delicate scents to the air, creating a gentle perfume that drifted through the evening. Families would gather here after supper, settling onto benches made of stone or wood. Conversations were quiet and unhurried, reflections on the day, dreams for tomorrow, or simple shared silence. Children played gently near the fountain, tracing patterns on the cool marble edges with sleepy fingers. Older members of the household might sit with lamps beside them, reading scrolls or simply listening to the soft night sounds. Above, the sky slowly deepened from blue to violet, and the first stars appeared, shimmering just beyond the garden walls. The world seemed to pause in this moment, suspended between the lingering warmth of the day and the calm promise of the night. In these peaceful courtyard gardens, Romans found a simple, timeless comfort. A place to rest, to breathe, and to drift towards sleep with a heart as calm as the softly rippling water at the garden center. Fact 20. The soft murmurs of Roman scribes at work. In the calm of a Roman morning, long before the city's full energy began to hum, there existed a quiet world shaped by ink, parchment, and the gentle scratch of reed pens. This was the world of the Roman scribes, the scribi, whose steady hands preserved stories, ideas, and knowledge with a soothing, almost meditative rhythm. Imagine a small, sunlit room in an ancient Roman tablinum, or perhaps a corner of a public library where scrolls were kept cool and protected. Light filtered softly through thin curtains, casting warm beams onto polished wooden tables. On these tables lay scrolls of papyrus rolled neatly, ink pots filled carefully, and slender reeds sharpened to a gentle point. Every tool had its place, and every movement carried a quiet purpose. A scribe would sit peacefully, their posture relaxed but attentive. Before writing, they might run their fingers lightly over the papyrus, feeling the subtle texture of its woven fibers. It was not perfectly smooth, it had a faint grain, a natural softness that welcomed the ink. The scribe dipped their reed pen into a mixture of soot, gum, and water, and with slow, patient strokes, the words began to appear. Each letter of Latin script unfurled like a soft breath across the page. The strokes were not rushed, they flowed as if in conversation with the scribe's own heartbeat. The gentle sound of pen on papyrus, faint, rhythmic, steady, created a calming atmosphere that filled the room without disturbing its stillness. Sometimes the scribe would pause, resting their wrist, looking out at a courtyard or toward an open window where a breeze drifted through. The world outside might be full of movement, but here, time moved differently. Unhurried, thoughtful, balanced. The work of copying texts, poetry, philosophy, laws, letters, was seen as almost sacred. Through this patient practice, knowledge traveled from one generation to the next. A scribe could spend hours carefully shaping elegant lines of verse or preserving the heartfelt words of a distant friend. They often whispered the words as they wrote them, speaking softly to ensure accuracy. These whispers, barely louder than a breath, gave the room a hushed, melodic quality, like a lullaby hidden within the ink. By midday, as sunlight shifted and shadows stretched, the scribe might gently roll up the finished scroll, tie it with a strip of linen, and place it among others, each one a quiet treasure. Their work was subtle, humble, and deeply peaceful. And though their names were often forgotten, Their steady hands helped preserve the ancient world's stories with a serene devotion that echoed through centuries. In the tranquility of a scribe's workspace, history was not just written, it was cared for, nurtured, and passed along like a soft whisper carried on a gentle breeze. Fact 21. The calm footsteps along the Roman aqueducts. High above the fields and valleys of the Roman countryside, where the breeze drifted softly over the land, there stood the long, graceful silhouettes of the aqueducts, silent giants that carried life-giving water to the cities. And though they were feats of incredible engineering, they also held a certain peaceful beauty, especially in the quiet hours of morning or late afternoon, when the world around them felt especially still. Imagine walking along the base of one of these towering structures, perhaps the Aqua Claudia or Aqua Marcia, stretching across the landscape in endless arches. Their stones, warm from the sun, held centuries of history in their surface, tiny marks, faint chips, soft weathering from wind and rain. Above, water flowed through the covered channels in a gentle, continuous journey, so steady that one could almost imagine the sound even if it could not be heard. Villagers and travelers often walked alongside these aqueducts, using the shade of their arches as a cool refuge during warm days. The shadows moved slowly across the ground like dark, elongated waves. Grass rustled lightly beneath the arches, stirred by a wind carrying the scent of wild herbs, rosemary, thyme, and the sweet earth after the morning dew. For many Romans, the aqueducts offered a sense of reassurance. Knowing that fresh water traveled tirelessly from distant springs and mountains into their cities brought a quiet peace, a promise of cleanliness, nourishment, and life. Farmers watched the aqueducts from their fields as they worked, comforted by the thought that the water flowing above them would eventually fill fountains, baths, and homes far away. In the evenings, as the sun descended, the arches cast long golden shadows across the countryside. Birds perched along the highest edges, silhouettes resting against the fading sky. Travelers sometimes paused beneath an arch, leaning against its sturdy base, feeling the gentle coolness of stone against their back. They could look up and see the aqueduct stretching endlessly, like a calm and patient guardian watching over the land. And at night, when the stars shimmered softly overhead, the aqueducts stood in stillness, their grand shapes blending with the darkness. The quiet was deep and comforting, as though the entire structure held its breath along with the resting countryside. In the serene company of these ancient water bridges, Romans found not just engineering marvels, but gentle reminders of the steady rhythms that sustain their lives, water flowing, day turning to night, and peace settling over the land like a soft blanket. Fact 22. The soft glow of Roman mosaics in the afternoon light. In the quiet rooms of Roman villas, where sunlight drifted gently through open doorways and settled across the floor like a warm embrace, mosaics told stories in silence. These intricate artworks, made of thousands of tiny colored stones called tesserae, were more than decoration. They were gentle companions to everyday life, offering moments of stillness and beauty to anyone who paused to admire them. Imagine standing in such a room during a calm afternoon. The light is soft, not harsh, spreading across the mosaic floor in a golden wash. As it moves, each small tile catches the glow differently, some gleaming faintly, others absorbing light in matte, earthy tones. The entire mosaic seems to breathe with the sun's slow movement, becoming more vibrant, then fading into subtle hues as clouds drift by. A mosaic might depict dolphins leaping through quiet blue waves, their forms curved gracefully, as if frozen mid-dance. Or it could show gentle vines curling around clusters of fruit, each berry shaped with care by hands that worked patiently, stone by stone. Some mosaics displayed mythic scenes, Venus rising from the sea foam, Apollo playing his lyre, or peaceful pastoral landscapes that soothed the mind with images of calm countryside life. The process of creating such mosaics was slow and meditative. Artisans knelt on the floor for hours, selecting each tiny tile, placing it with intention, forming delicate curves and gradients. The sound of their work was subtle, the soft tap of tools, the hush of hands brushing dust from the stones, creating a rhythm almost musical in its quiet persistence. Visitors to a Roman home often paused at doorway thresholds, allowing the mosaic to greet them like a silent host. Children liked to trace patterns with their fingertips, feeling the coolness of the stones beneath their skin. Adults might sit nearby, sipping watered wine or reading a scroll, letting the artwork's gentle details calm their thoughts after a long day. Even in public spaces, baths, temples, and marketplaces, mosaics spread beneath countless feet, turning ordinary moments into small encounters with beauty. The imagery, whether simple or elaborate, added softness to the space, reminding passers-by of the harmony and artistry woven into everyday Roman life. And in the evening, as shadows grew longer and the gold of the day faded to a gentle silver, the mosaics became quiet again, resting like a peaceful painting awaiting the next sunrise. In their serene presence, these mosaics captured not just images, but a feeling, a quiet reminder that even the smallest pieces, placed with care, can create something truly soothing and timeless. Fact 23. The gentle harmony of Roman lyre music. In the tranquil corners of Roman homes, gardens, and evening gatherings, there was a soft, soothing presence that often drifted through the air like a warm breeze, the delicate music of the lyre. This small, graceful instrument, shaped like a rounded wooden frame with strings stretched across it, carried a sound that was gentle, calming, and perfect for quiet hours when the world seemed to slow down. Picture a peaceful Roman evening. Lamps glow softly along the walls, the courtyard fountain murmurs in the background, and the air is beginning to cool. A musician, perhaps a family member, a guest, or a hired performer, sits comfortably on a low stool, the lyre resting lightly on their lap. With a relaxed posture and steady breath, they run their fingers across the strings. The notes that rise are tender and melodic, each one falling like a soft drop of water into stillness. The lyre did not shout or demand attention. Its sound was light and airy, meant to drift gently, blending with the calm of the room. In Roman poetry, its music was described as the language of quiet hearts, a companion to restful moments. People listened with eyes half closed, letting the soft vibrations soothe their minds. Sometimes, poems or gentle stories were recited alongside the music, the voice and instrument weaving together like threads of silk. Children often curled up nearby, lulled by the rhythm into the first hints of sleep. Adults leaned back on cushions, sipping watered wine, their worries of the day settling into the background. Even in large gatherings, lyre music often signaled a shift into a more peaceful mood, inviting reflection, warmth, and calm conversation. The instrument itself carried a story of nature, its frame carved from smooth wood, sometimes adorned with simple patterns, and its strings made from animal gut, carefully stretched to create different tones. Tuning the lyre was a slow, attentive act, done with gentle twists and soft plucks until each note aligned perfectly with the musician's ear. In the countryside, shepherds played smaller lyres while tending their flocks, letting the music drift across open fields where it mingled with birdsong and the rustling of grass. In cities, philosophers played them between discussions, believing music helped keep the mind balanced and serene. Even emperors were known to enjoy its soothing melodies in private chambers. Wherever it was played, the lyre created a space of peace, a soft haven amid the busy rhythms of Roman life. Its gentle harmony carried a timeless calm, the kind that settles the heart and guides the mind into a slow, restful drift. Fact 24: the slow, peaceful journey of a Roman market morning. Before the city of Rome fully awoke, before chariots rumbled along the stone streets and voices filled the air, there was a gentler time at the break of dawn. This was when the Roman markets, the fora, began their quiet transformation from empty spaces into warm, bustling centers of life. But in these early hours, everything unfolded softly, like the slow opening of a flower. Imagine walking through the Forum Romanum just as the first light of morning paints the sky in pale gold. The marble columns stand tall and still, their shadows long and sleepy across the ground. A cool breeze drifts through the wide open square, carrying the faintest sense of fresh herbs, baked bread, and dewy earth. The world feels hushed, calm, patient, unhurried. Vendors arrive first, moving slowly as they set up their stalls. Wooden carts creak gently as they're rolled into place. Cloth awnings are unfurled with quiet rustles, fluttering like soft wings. Baskets are arranged carefully, figs with their tender sweetness, honey jars glistening amber in the light, olives still cool from the night air. Each item is placed thoughtfully, as though the market itself were being prepared like a peaceful ritual. Some sellers hum softly to themselves as they sort their goods, creating a low, melodic backdrop to the calm morning. A potter sets out rows of smooth clay bowls and cups, their surfaces cool and speckled. A flower seller lays out bundles of rosemary, mint, and fresh blossoms, their fragrances spreading gently through the air like a soothing breath. Shoppers arrive slowly, women in simple tunics with woven baskets on their arms, elderly men wrapped in warm cloaks, children still rubbing the sleep from their eyes. They walk unhurriedly, pausing to admire the fresh produce, greeting vendors with soft words and warm smiles. Conversations are gentle and brief, exchanged like small gifts rather than transactions. A musician might appear, sitting at the edge of the square with a flute made from reed. The music is soft, drifting lazily through the morning air, intertwining with the subtle sounds of footsteps and quiet voices. Birds flutter across the rooftops, adding their soft songs to the moment. As the sun rises higher, the market slowly shifts from a tranquil dawn gathering into a lively daytime hub, but the early morning hours remain a pocket of calm that many Romans treasured. A time where life felt simple, grounded, and deeply human. In these serene beginnings of the day, the Roman market was not merely a place to buy food or goods, it was a gentle awakening of the city's heart. Fact 25: the quiet ritual of tending Roman household shrines. Deep within the heart of many Roman homes lay a small, peaceful sanctuary, a modest household shrine known as the Lararium. This gentle space, often tucked into a corner or set within a niche of the wall, held symbols of protection, warmth, and continuity. And each morning, before the day unfolded in full, Romans performed a soft, calming ritual here that brought stillness and comfort to their lives. Imagine a quiet Roman home at daybreak. The courtyard is still, the rooms touched by the cool blue of early light. Before the bustle of cooking, chores, or business begins, a family member, often the head of the household, but sometimes anyone who felt the call, steps toward the Lararium with slow, thoughtful movements. Their footsteps are quiet on the tiled floor, almost like a whisper. The shrine itself is simple, yet full of meaning. Small painted figures of the Laras, the protective household spirits, stand calmly within it, their arms outstretched in timeless guardianship. Perhaps there is a tiny statue of the household's chosen deity, a small bowl for offerings, and a few delicate decorations like garlands or fragrant sprigs of herbs. Everything about it feels gentle, intentional, and rooted in care. The ritual begins with a deep breath. A small clay lamp is lit, its flame rising softly, filling the corner with a warm, golden glow. The flicker of the fire dances lightly across the painted figures, giving them a living warmth. The scent of burning oil floats upward, mingling with the morning air to create a subtle fragrance that signals peace and presence. Offerings are placed with steady hands, perhaps a pinch of grain, a small piece of bread, a drop of wine, or a simple flower picked from the garden. These were not grand gestures, but quiet acknowledgments of gratitude and hope. As the offerings settle into the bowl or dish, the room seems to hold its breath for a moment, embracing the stillness. Some Romans whispered a few gentle words during this ritual, asking for protection, good fortune, or simply expressing thanks for the new day. Others preferred silence, letting their thoughts drift like soft clouds. The ritual took only a few minutes, but its calming effect lingered long after, the kind of peace that stays in the chest, warm and steady. Children watched with sleepy eyes, feeling the serenity of the moment even if they didn't fully understand it. Adults felt grounded, their minds gently prepared for the day's unfolding tasks. The flame flickered quietly, a small symbol of continuity in a world that could sometimes be unpredictable. When the ritual ended, the lamp continued to glow for a little while longer, casting a protective warmth over the home. And as the family stepped into their day, they carried with them the soft reassurance of this morning communion with their ancient guardians. In these gentle rituals, the Romans found not just spirituality, but a daily moment of calm, a grounding breath at the threshold of every new sunrise.